one man's debts are another man's assets. Okay, so what happened? The government had to sell a lot of debt. And when it sold a lot of debt, there were a lot of entities that bought a lot of bonds, government bonds. And money was very easy, which meant that short-term interest rates were very low. And money was actually being given away because they had interest-only loans and interest rates were less than 1%. And you didn't have to pay back principal. So you can go get money. And so that created a lot of debt, and it created a lot of buying of government bonds. So what happened to Silicon Valley Bank is what happened to many entities all around the world, not just banks. They what does a bank do? A bank takes in deposits, typically, or debt in some way, and then it buys debt. It can do that in the form of making a loan, or it could do that in the form of buying a government bond, buying debt. And then when interest rates went up, the value of that debt went down. The money they had to give to depositors became more and more expensive. And also depositors, wanting them to be competitive, looked at money market rates or other rates and withdrew money from the bank because they had better uses. Okay, so what that leaves them with, it's a banking problem that has happened literally for thousands of years, that what they do is the depositors, want their money back, and they're holding assets that are, in this case, have gone down in value, so they're broke.
Let me put a fine point on that. Sorry, before you move on, I don't know that people really understand this. Is this a? It seems to be a necessary result of fractional reserve banking, meaning that if you deposit $10 to me, I only need to keep, and I think this is actually accurate, I only need to keep $1. And so the other $9 I can actually put to work in terms of loans to other people or investments. And that puts us in a position where, okay, technically you're giving the bank a loan. A deposit isn't just, oh, my money is in a vault somewhere. I've given the bank a loan. The bank is going to go do things with that of varying degrees of risk. In the case of SVB, they thought I'm doing the least risky thing, which is I'm buying government debt. The government is going to back it. The government, especially the US government, can actually print money if they had to cover that, which they did in this case. But if a lot of people go to the bank at the same time, known as a bank run, and say, I want all of my money, the bank goes, whoa, I don't have that money. And so I have all these assets. And as long as those assets remain liquid and I can liquidate them in a timely fashion, then sure, as long as the requests for people's deposits back are coming at a reasonable rate, all is well. But when you get a lot of people coming at once and you have the investments that they've made have gone down in value, now you get a perfect storm.
Exactly. I think you said it very well. You're allowed to be in the business. Let's call it 1/10. It's actually less than 1/10 is your money.
Whoa.
But let's call it 1/10. You have a certain amount of money up. They give you the deposits. You invest the money within these general guidelines. So, for example, government bonds are safe from default. So you buy the government bonds. You think you're making a spread. And then what happens is the government bonds go down in value. At the same time as the people say, hey, I want to go take my money and put it someplace else. So you don't have enough money. And central banking works like that, except the government can print the money. So the risk, and when it's the government, is not that you won't get the money back unless, like in this particular case, for a bank, it goes down in value. So you ain't going to get that back. You're going to sell it. But anyway, you described it very well. What happens for the economy as a whole is then they print the money because they don't want defaults. There's a tolerable amount of defaults, and then you get past a tolerable amount of defaults, and it just crushes everything. And so they print the money. Okay. And so this thing with the bank is not a Silicon Valley Bank is a loan issue. It's not a banking issue. It is a global issue in terms of all around the world, all sorts of entities, pension funds, insurance companies, all around the world. There was a lot of the buying of these government bonds, which have gone down in value. And if you then take it and you say, what's the value of those? Those have gone down. And the cost of money is high. And so the world is leverage long, okay? Long, meaning they own stuff and they borrowed money to own it, and it's going down in value.
How nightmarish does that scenario become? So you've got your money locked up in something for a long time, but it's declining in value. Is this like a classic moment where we can look at this big cycle and go, oh, we know where this goes, like the music has stopped, everybody, or no, it's a bit harder to judge than that?
I think it's pretty easy to judge on an intermediate or longer term basis because there's a choice, right? The big issue is, okay, the government can come in and print the money and give money to anybody they want to give money to. But when they do that, that typically devalues the money. So think about it, if you're holding a bond, you got a claim on money, but the claims are too much. So one way or another, you're either not going to get back that money in full, or you're going to get back money that's worth less because they print the money.
Whoa. Ray, I've never heard anybody say it like that. So let me just make sure that I understood that. The government has effectively issued too many bonds, so people they're holding...
And a lot of companies and a lot of other things too.
Okay, very good point. So we're not just buying the bonds from the government, we're buying corporate bonds, municipal bonds, like anybody that wants to put some debt out into the market. Government, of course, in fact, I'm actually curious, what's the ratio roughly, if you know this, between corporate debt and government debt?
Well, right now, I couldn't give you the exact number off the top of my head, but there's household debt, corporate debt, and government debt.
Yeah, that's terrifying. So even if you took every dollar that our entire country makes, I think it's true globally. If you took every dollar that we make globally and tried to pay off the debt, you wouldn't be able to do it.
Well, that's right. But it's not expected to pay it off in a year.
Sure.
I want to go back to my main point to make this clear. If you're holding that debt, you are holding something that money will come back. Let's say the government can print the money, but if the money's hard, if that's going to be good money that's coming back, it's going to be hard for those entities to pay back because it's a lot relative to their income and cash flows to pay it. And that means that the default risk rises. However, because you're holding that, it means that the debt will be bad one way or another. It's either bad because they don't pay it and needs a haircut for them to pay it, or because they do pay it with money that is going to be printed.